What's up guys, welcome to Blake's Garage. So today I'm gonna make some door cards for the BMW E30, the BERTY30. I picked up some door cards from a company not too long ago and I was really unhappy about the fit and just the finish and like how they looked. They didn't even drill out like the hole for the plunger or anything like that, and they were powder coated. It's like, if you're gonna finish a product and powder coat it, make it fit first. Also, the hole was way too big for the handle to where like even when you put the finishing piece on, like it was just, I was unhappy for sure. I spent $50 to get them shipped to me, plus the price of the part and $50 to ship them back. So I actually missed out on $100, which would have bought me a whole lot of aluminum. So this is the aluminum that I'm gonna be using right here. This is just, I think this is 22 gauge aluminum right here. I got it cut, and what I did is I picked up a few tools to make this work. So I'll put links to all these down below. I got this for bending and folding the sheet metal. If you have a sheet metal brake, then great. If you don't, then yeah, do what I'm doing. Got some right hand cutters right here. I also picked up some left hand cutters. These are just some Milwaukee's. I'll leave a link to these below as well. I really like these. I also ended up using a Dremel and a drill with a unibit. That just kind of came in pretty handy. When you start to cut stuff, basically it's going to shear off one of the sides, and when it starts to do that, it's going to curl that piece of metal. So you want your piece of metal to look nice and flat still. Also, what I used, quick clamps. If you guys have a sheet metal brake, like I said, great. If not, I used these, 2 of these, and a piece of angle iron that I have. So with that in mind, I'll show you guys what I did. First off, I took a piece of cardboard. So taking that piece of cardboard, I made a template of the door. Now cardboard's kind of nice because what you can do with cardboard that I find really easy is you can actually kind of use it into your advantage, where it has that kind of that compression, you know, to where it has that extra little layer right there. So what I ended up doing is taking a nice sheet of cardboard and then actually pressing it against and then pressing on it really hard around the edges of it before I cut this. Now I've already done one door card, but I want to show you guys how I did this. So I just did that, pressing on the edges, and that kind of embossed an area that made it easier for me to cut out this basically just this template. Now also you kind of see that it's overhanging at the top. I did that because I want this thing to fold over. I want it to be, you know, nice and smooth. I want it to have a nice rounded lip up here at the top. The ones that I previously purchased, they like, for whatever reason, they stopped right here, which was just stupid. It was just like a 90-degree angle. You had all this showing. Also the corners were like hanging off, like they weren't even straight to, you know, this factory line. So this is basically the factory line that I'm gonna be working off right here around the door. Just because I feel that that looks the best. Sneak peek. Trace that pattern onto cardboard, then taking the cardboard, you can then trace it onto your aluminum. So the first step that I did was actually did the rounding of the top, because of just the mere fact that when you start to round this or bend this, you're gonna kind of shrink the metal, and by that I mean that some of it is gonna disappear from the bottom. So what I did is I used this little guy right here, and I took that, clamped it onto the table that I have right here on my little shop workbench setup, and basically just use this as kind of like a brake. So taking that little piece of angle iron, I basically am just gonna set it right here at the end. First, I used a little scrap piece of steel, and doing that, used it on the plunger, because that's the only spot that is actually like kind of difficult, I would say, at least on most of these door cards. I think it's just gonna be your little plunger area where your door goes, or where your lock goes. Just because you have this, you know, the depth going into the inside of the door, plus you have this hole to deal with, and you want to make sure that the hole is going to line up and that, you know, you're not like flying out here or something like that. I want to mimic this curvature right here. Kind of measured that out, so that's about 1 inch towards the end right there. Really, that's just a guesstimate, but that's how I did the last one, and it worked out great. That way I can just kind of replicate what I did before. Now, this front line right here, had this cut for me. You can buy these sheets in, you know, full size. I had these cut in a sheet metal shear because of the mere fact that you know, the closest thing I have to cutting something really straight is just my eye and a ruler and these bad boys right here. So having a good starting point is definitely a good idea. And I'm really just gonna set it up towards the end of my bench. Now this is just basically making kind of like just a makeshift sheet metal brake. I'm gonna take my little Irwin clamps, You can use whatever you want. Basically put it right up to the edge here so I can have a consistent line. I'm kind of lining it up right here with this line at the end of my desk. My piece until it hits. So I know I'm straight all the way across. Take my little clamperoo. Uh-oh, moved one more time on me. So we'll double check this one more time. That looks pretty dang good still. Got her all lined up. So using these guys right here, what I'm just gonna do is just slowly start on bending this. So you can see, I'm making a good size line right here. I'm actually kind of starting on the third dots right here, which are some measurement markers, but I'm using that one as a guide right there. So as I start my bend, you know, I can stay pretty consistent across the board. So here we have the bent angled piece. This is going to be the top area where it's going to go into the window. Right here, this is where it kind of curves over. Kind of the hardest part, not that it's really hard, but you just have to accurately figure out where this little plunger is going to go, because the inside depth of this piece, you want to have it correct so you know it's not wobbling around, so that it works within this area. And you want to drill the hole so this thing doesn't just jiggle around and all that. Not that it really matters because this is a race car, but you know, if we can be accurate, let's do it. So these little clamps and just a piece of angle iron like work really well just for a makeshift, you know, little, not that it's a brake, but it's just like a good way to clamp down, you know, a piece of aluminum or a piece of sheet metal, just to make sure you have like a good solid straight edge. There we are. This looks good. It did shrink down a little bit, but I actually saw that when I was starting to bend, that it got a little bit narrower towards the end, and that was just me and the way that I was bending it. But I think that's gonna be okay, because actually on the other one, it kind of tapers in as it gets closer to the inside of the door. So I think it's gonna be perfect. I already made like just a easy, just little gauge that, you know, basically kind of helped me figure out how much depth I need for the plunger. Like this, as you can see, it wobbles around quite a bit, so it just needs to be, you know, semi-accurate. So that's kind of the piece that I made as a markup for the curvature of the top, of how I needed my angle, and then, you know, how the plunger is gonna work, and then the size of the plunger hole. I'm just using a unibit like this, a step bit. These work great, just to drill this out real fast. Want to use a punch, not a bad idea, but if you're good with the drill. Boom, perfect. You can see it's like basically the same exact size as the little plunger, so that's perfect. You know, if you need to open it up a little bit more for a little bit of more leeway, feel free if it starts hanging up, but this should be good. Now I got that hole on there, I can just kind of put it over the little plunger piece and sort of get an idea of where this thing is gonna lay out. So I have to notch this piece right here, notch that in because it kind of comes out for the window. When I do that, that'll allow this to kind of suck back a little bit farther, just like kind of the other pieces. You can see it goes right under there and it fits right underneath the little rubberized trim, so it'll look really good. Make some marks and get to town. I've already made the passenger side one right here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that. But when I first did this, I basically just did it with the piece of cardboard, you know? Cardboard is very similar to the outline of this little piece that I made. As you can see, cardboard hole lines up with the cardboard hole. See how that works? Edges pretty much line up with all that. I did make the cardboard piece just a tad bit bigger. That way, you know, I could do some like fine tuning on the edges and whatnot. But then you can see also at the top, like it also has the extra metal for the curvature, because you can just bend cardboard very easily, and it's cheap, it's easy. Before you throw it into aluminum, just makes the job a lot quicker. But however, to speed up this process, I'm just gonna transfer it over. I know that I used the straight edge of this panel right here. This is a straight line, so that's kind of what I'm gonna like base my corner off of, because that's how I did it with the other one. That was like the straightest part of the door. That's the inside of the door where it hinges closest to the front fender. And this is like your most important piece right here, is the door handle. This is what you want to be very accurate. Like I was saying with those other ones, literally the trim piece would like fit through the hole. It was so just huge. It was just really total junk in my opinion. I was very unhappy with that. I don't know why you can't, you know, put a small accurate sized hole in. All the BMW size holes are gonna be the same size, and you know, if they made it smaller, I wouldn't have been opposed to grinding it out and making it fit. However, you know, if something's overlapping and it's a bit too big, not an issue. But when it's too small and looks like crap, that's when you're annoyed, because you paid for quality and you didn't get it. So we're making quality right here. And also for the accuracy of the door hole, I kind of practiced because I didn't want to do it like on a real piece. What I did here is I just kind of traced it out, and when I traced it out, I took my unibit like this, and I took that into the corners. When I did that in the corners, it makes the corners kind of nice and round. I did that at first, and then actually ended up trimming out a little bit more, but it was just kind of nice to make an exact size or template of the door. I kind of just made it like really, really tight and really accurate of how the door handle was, and then from there, I basically transferred that onto the sheet metal. That way, you know, if I needed to make up any up, down, left, or right, I'd have really tight tolerances. So, yeah, overall it looks good.
Well, hey guys, I like riding in the BERTY30. It's pretty nice. These door cards are gonna be pretty sweet. I'm pretty sure. I don't know, just chilling, just kind of hanging out in the garage. I was hanging out in the old BERTY30 seat because that thing's pretty comfy, and I don't know. I guess we're gonna cut stuff. I wish I could reach the steering wheel, because then I'd drive this bad boy and do some cool stuff, but usually I just like to chill here and hang out.
Hopefully this camera does not fall, because it's up on the truck and it's kind of tilted. Let's see, again, I think I already showed these. If I didn't, then I'm showing them now. So you'll notice the colors on these. One is green handled and one is red. I'm gonna attribute that to starboard and port for the red. Green, starboard is usually green on a boat. I know these are aviation snips. Not sure if they'd refer to planes like that as well, probably not. This is where I'm coming up with the color, okay? If that's true, cool. If not, maybe it's just a coincidence, but that's what I'm gonna go with. So yeah, and then if you guys have yellow ones, those are just for cutting like in a straight line. These ones would be for cutting in a right-hand angle. So this would be like your counterclockwise. These are cutting for the left-hand side, which you'd be kind of trimming off whatever's on the left-hand side here, and that would be disposed of. So I like to kind of hold them like this and think about it like trimming straight and then like this, and then trimming straight and then like this. So counterclockwise, clockwise, clockwise red, counterclockwise green. I know that's probably confusing, but hey, you'll figure it out. It also says R and L on the side of them right there. Cool. Maybe you guys learned something, maybe you didn't, whatever. For an example, you know, right here, I'm gonna use the right-handed one. So right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and just trim this little piece off, and as you can kind of see, it's going to basically bend this piece up. You can see how it's kind of curling, and it's gonna leave the metal on the other side still nice and straight. Now cutting on an angle like this, you can kind of flatten out your bends, so you wanna be aware of that. So I might just have to kind of bend that back, but you know, be aware of what you're doing. I'm gonna go a little bit wide at first. I like to go wider than shorter because it's very easy to trim off more. You can't put it back, right? So, and see how I kind of have just like a bunch of excess. So what I like to do with that is sometimes I'll just trim a little piece off. That way I can get my line going straight again, and I'm not running into any sort of issues. I like to actually use the shears themselves as kind of like a straight edge. You'll feel it when you're cutting. You can kind of like line it up and keep a line fairly straight, just due to how you're using the tin snips. So pretty cool.
Inside the BERTY30, because of that pore 15, it's it's really kind of slippery. Yeah. So, okay, just want to let you know.
Now, if I want to kind of come back the other direction, I'm actually going to just switch snips wherever I put them. Don't put them under your piece because then you lose them. So now you can see I'm cutting to the right, so I kind of just got to flip this over and continue with that. Got those excess pieces. Keep that scrap. You're gonna use it for something. Kind of the rough cut. So I'm gonna go transfer that over to the car and see how it looks. Oh yeah, it looks pretty good already. I'm gonna take a little bit more off here. I'll trim that up towards the end. The hardest part of this whole thing is just getting the center door handle lined up. And then so like this is the trim piece on the door. So I made it to where when you cut this out, you can see it's smaller than the trim piece here, so you can run the factory trim piece. It just really dials it in. It just really makes it look like, pro, you know? I picked up those other ones, like I'll insert a picture right here so you guys can see it, but you know, when I did those, they were like this. They would have had all this weird, they were like bent to where I couldn't put them any direction. They basically fit like this, and the hole was huge. And you can see how that looks like crap right there. Like, why do we want to see this? It's literally like an inch more of steel or metal, and it's not going to weigh that much more, and it's just going to look so much better. And then plus, like, the corners didn't really line up. Like, you could see the edges. Like, see how that overlaps right there? It was kind of like that. So you just saw like uneven lines. I don't know. Wasn't a fan. So this looks perfect the way it is set up with this. I'm probably gonna trim a little bit more off of this. So I probably won't show that, I'll just tune that up. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut this hole. So I'll show you how I cut this hole. It's fairly easy with a die grinder or, you know, a Dremel. Okay, I'm not sure how well you guys can see the outline on here, sorry. I'm just gonna go for it though. But just keep in mind, I'm just keeping these in the inside of the door handle, and also in doing this, it's gonna like ensure the accuracy of the fit. So I'm doing them a little bit inside, that way I can just gauge it, which is a good idea because you can tell if it's gonna fit the door handle properly or if you kind of put it in the wrong spot. Cool. As you can see, I kind of just drilled those holes around that. Now I'm gonna go put it on there and kind of eyeball it. Kind of looking at my stock trim ring right here, you wanna make sure that you know kind of what way it slips on. So it's gonna slip forward. So you wanna make a little bit more room so when you slip this thing that it's gonna have some room to get in there. It's kind of like to look at this beforehand, make sure we're cool because we wanna be towards the outside edges of this, which this should be good right here. So we're gonna get it cutting. Alrighty, so as you can see, I can tell right off the bat because this doesn't sit inward, so I wanted to make sure I'm cutting in the right area before I go any further. But you do want to make this a bit bigger, that way it can like slide on and that sort of thing if you're gonna use these stock rings. I just think this looks a lot cleaner, so I'm planning on using the stock. Smoothed out edges, got the hole going like this. I notched this a little bit because what that does is it allows these little pieces right here to slide forward just a bit more. I don't need to take out all that material, but as you can see, I can kind of like slide it, and what that's going to allow it to do is click on like how it does with the factory. So that's great. Looks really good. And now we're gonna go slap it on the car and screw it down so you guys can see what it looks like. It's got some number 8, like 3/4 inch tech screws, some sheet metal screws. I'm just gonna sheet metal screw this on for now. I may eventually like rivet it and put a bunch more rivets. However, these guys work good. I think I'm gonna maybe paint these, possibly like a wrinkle black. I may or may not show that in the video. If I do, then that's what's coming up. If not, I'm gonna paint these and you guys will see it in the future because I'm sure you don't really need to watch me like paint these things. Looks good. I kind of just need like a reference point as well. That's another reason I'm putting some of these screws in. I may dial this in a bit more. You guys will see it on its completion, but we're we're pretty much there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and screw this thing in, and I'll show you the end results here in a minute. So there's the final result on the driver's side. As you can see, I got this lined up real nice. It's nice and smooth. You know, I could probably grind on that edge. I may do that when I paint. Might just kind of round out that edge right there. As you can see, the plunger is nice and tight. You know, that works all good. That's great. You can see the lip right here. It's all bent up all the way to the lip. Makes a good curve over here. Then I kind of rounded it out at the corners. And it's flat down there at the bottom. So overall, it looks really good. You can see that the door handle works, and it looks factory and stock. And yeah, same with the other side over there. It looks really, really good. That's how it looks with the door shut. Looks really nice. I mean, it's just really completing out this car. It's looking really good. I've been wanting to do some of this tin work, you know, some of this aluminum work for a while here now, and I think that it's overall looking really great. So I'm definitely happy with the outcome and the way that this things look. Go ahead and give this video a like, guys. This pretty much applies to any sort of car. You don't have to specifically do this on a BMW, obviously. This is gonna work for any car. It's basically the same principles, just, you know, apply what's gonna work for you. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Share, like, subscribe. We'll talk to you guys soon. Later. Wrench on.